All right, good afternoon. We're going to continue with our post-race victory lane interviews, and we've now been joined by our race-winning crew chief, Adam Stevens. And Adam, this is your third win in a row in 2015 with Kyle and the number 18 team. Just a quick stat to throw out that in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, you and Kyle had 52 starts and 19 wins. You now have 9 starts together in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, and you now have 4 wins in that column. Just talk a little bit about the relationship you have with Kyle and really what makes the number 18 team so strong.
Well, you know, that's a really good question. I've thought about it some because I've been asked some, but it's hard to put your finger on it. You know, Kyle and I we look at race cars and racing the same way. We both know that it's not about making any one item on the car or any one strategy or any one weekend perfect. It's about making all the 10 or 12 things that make a car go fast as good as you can and moving on to the next one. And Kyle's the type of person that when you need to relay some information to him, you can't be afraid to tell him in a way that he's confident in it. And, you know, we just have a tremendous amount of respect for each other, and we approach racing and race cars in general the same way.
And as we mentioned, you just won your first NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race as a crew chief just a couple weeks ago, but now you can not only talk about this season from that standpoint, but now you also have a Brickyard 400 win. Just talk a little bit about the emotion of today and really, you know, what it means to have the opportunity to kiss the bricks just a little bit ago.
Right. Well, man, that's crazy when you think of it like that. But a little bit about the Brickyard. You know, as a boy growing up, I can tell you that there's not another racetrack that's more important to me to get a victory at. I felt that way when we won on the Xfinity side. I felt that way when I was able to be a race engineer on Zippy and Tony's teams and win a couple races. And, you know, the history of racing at this track is unmatched anywhere on this planet. And, you know, to lead a team that put together a car that put together a weekend and a setup and did all the right things to bring home the trophy is something that I can hang my hat on for the rest of my life.
Right. We'll go ahead and take questions for Adam. If you have one, please raise your hand and state your name and affiliation, and we'll start with Stan.
Thank you. Stan Creekmore with RPMTonight.com. Adam, did you watch yesterday's race, and were you the least bit concerned about the health of your driver as you got up this morning and started getting everything ready?
Sure. You know, I watched the race. I was out on pit road looking at the tires like all the rest of the crew chiefs, and watched the rest from my motor coach and saw how dehydrated he was and how slap wore out he was, and went and spent some time with him in the infield care center, and we talked a little bit about the race car and about how today was going to go, and visited with his crew chief and their interior guy and talked a little bit about what they had to keep him cool and, you know, what they thought could have been better. And got with my car chief and my interior guy and made sure that that we did everything we could, even to the detriment of the performance of the car, to make sure that he was comfortable today.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, Wade Bell, Clarion News. Friday after the first practice, all the cars in the Gibbs stables had their engines changed. Was there something specific that you found there, and how much of a difference did it make?
Right. With the extra practice time they gave us, we have mileage limits, and we were concerned coming into the weekend that with the extra practice that we would reach the mileage limit, and it's just a safety precaution. A lot of teams changed engines, so there were very few that didn't. And the way the schedule was laid out, we only had like an hour and a half between second and third practice, so it didn't make sense to change it there. And you want to get some laps on it before you qualify, so the only break that made sense was after first practice.
All right, we'll take our next question from Mike up front.
Mike Neff from frontstretch.com. Being a crew chief not only involves turning wrenches, but being a bit of a psychologist. And after listening to Kyle yesterday talk about the Kyle Busch caution, and the caution flew at the end of the race today, immediately heard you come on the radio and remind him to focus on the task at hand and to look forward, not worry about what was behind. How important did you feel it was at that moment to pull him back and get him centered on what the job was at hand?
Well, I think it's important. You know, all he needs is information. Every caution we had was completely legitimate, well-founded, needed to throw the caution. And if you don't tell him that and then they get the mess cleaned up before he gets to that part of the track, he doesn't know why the caution's out. So it's not rocket science sometimes. But, you know, I'd get frustrated, too, if I had a lead late in the race and the caution comes out and you don't see the debris or you don't know why the caution comes out. So, you know, a lot of times a little bit of information goes a long way.
All right, we'll break just for a second. To congratulate our race-winning car owner, Coach Joe Gibbs has now joined us. And, Coach, we'll just start with your thoughts and emotions of today, you know, the final restarts that we had there coming at the end. And then, obviously, with the win yesterday. And the win today, JGR had the opportunity to officially sweep here at the Brickyard. So talk a little bit about the organization, the win today, and your thoughts there.
Yeah, it was 3 restarts. I had a heart attack on all 3. I think what happens at the end like that, you put so much into this. Everybody here knows this. All of you do that've been around racing. You put so much in this. And I think for us to have a chance to win a race, and I think that's the reason why anything that you think would keep you from winning it. In other words, Kyle being out front and they call a caution. It's so much emotion. And so for all of us, we kind of, you know, all of us just feel like this is a special time for us. This doesn't happen very often in sports where you have a story like this, particularly in pro sports. It's just very hard to do. So we're going to enjoy this for sure. We love coming here. Indy's a big part of our fan base, and it's also a big racing community, and it's also a big spot for all of our sponsors. Give you some idea, JD and I did 6 hospitalities today. 6 of our sponsors were, you know, here and entertaining. It's just a huge deal for us, and to be in this part of the country, a sporting capital like Indianapolis, is really a big deal for us. The other thing I reflect on is the total team it takes to do this. I know Adam and Kyle will tell you this. It's everybody back at the race shop. I mean, engineering, fab shop, the motors from TRD. It's everybody it takes to put this together and work. And I know everybody here appreciates it, but when you get that many people working so hard, and for a year and a half we were behind. And we all kind of went to work, and we've been after it hard. There's been a lot that was put into this. So I say a big thanks to everybody back there, to our partners, in particular Mars. That's the other thing about our sport that I really enjoy. Because in football, baseball, basketball, you know, you really don't have to have a sponsor. Here, they're a huge part of this. And so when I have a chance to call Grant and Victoria and Forrest and everybody at Mars, you really thank them, because if they weren't in this sport, Mars has been in it now 27 years. You think about that. They love it as a family, and that's a huge deal for us to have a chance to be with them, race with them. And so it's that kind of a emotion and story that involves so many people. And so for Skittles to be on board today, it was a thrill for us. And I really think the last thing I focus on is Kyle. To think that he could go through what he went through early this year at Daytona and all of the heartbreak that went with that. And there's all kinds of questions when you come back out of a wreck like that, how it's going to affect you mentally, physically, and to see him bounce back and do what he's done and to win 4 out of the last 5. I mean, he is I think it's a special sports story, like I said before. He just keeps adding to it.
And also worth noting that here at Indianapolis was the final race that Toyota needed to be able to check off winning at all active tracks, and you had the opportunity to help them do that today. So just talk a little bit about, you know, being the team that was able to do that and what that means to Toyota.
It's special for us to be a part of the Toyota team. And when we got together a few years back, David's here. I called Bob Carter, I called Ed, everybody at Toyota. It's like they're like our partner. They have engineers that work with us, embedded with us. The motor program they've worked so hard on the motor program. As most of you know, we went through kind of a tough stretch there, and to see all of that bounce back and all of us hang together, I think sometimes that's the greatest thing in sports. When you're actually down, you know, that's the one thing that tests us, real adversity. And so it's tough to hang together. I think we did it, came out the other side. I think we're a lot better because of it. And so I really appreciate Toyo. It's great to see that they've won at every track, and it's awesome for us to be a part of their team.
All right, we'll go ahead and continue with questions with Coach Joe Gibbs or Adam Stevens. We're going to come up front to Dave, and then we'll go over to Bruce. Go ahead,
Dave Pullman, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Adam, you mentioned sacrifice, making the decision to sacrifice a little performance for the sake of Kyle's health. Can you be a little more? Can you describe that a little bit more? And when did you describe what you did and when you did it?
Yeah, just going into the race today, you know, these cars were sealed up so tight. That's the way they run the fastest, and it makes the interior of the cars really hot. And with the tail extension of this new package and the big spoiler, there's just not the air moving inside or under the car, and that's adding to the heat. So we just dumped some air into the cabin to keep the air circulating. It's not rocket science, you know, but we run better when Kyle's healthy. Certainly run better when he's in the car. So we've got to keep him in there.
All right, Bruce, go ahead.
Coach, you were talking about how special this is with Kyle, what the run that you're going through right now. Can you recall anything similar to this from your days in the NFL where a guy just came back from a devastating injury and all of a sudden just everything started to go his way?
Well, you see individuals at different times in sports, you know, in football when I was there. You see individuals with heroic stories coming back from real bad injuries. So, you know, you see some of that. It's just this one, I think, is obviously it's in this sport. We've seen Danny bounce back where he had, you know, but we don't get many injuries over here, really. We've been 24 years, JD and I, and everybody at the race team. One of the things we love about this sport, yes, it's you're racing cars and you're 200 miles an hour, so you can have accidents and what have you, but up until Denny's back, you know, which came 3 years ago, we'd never have a driver miss a race in 24 years. So I think that's a credit to NASCAR and all the hard work that goes into making our cars safer and safer. And so, but, you know, to have Kyle, that happened to Kyle, and come back from that, and I think it was a total team effort. And I appreciate Adam being able to hold everybody together for 11 weeks. That's hard to do. You think you're probably out of the chase? All those guys, when you look at them and look at their eyes, there was no backing up. They were after it. And we talked about, hey, if we get Kyle back, when we get him back, we got a chance. But it was really a chance. It was not, everybody here would have probably said, you know, it's probably not a good one. It's including me. But it's just worked out unbelievably.
All right, we're going to go to Bob next.
Bob Hocker, ESPN. Coach, I mean, if you guys had struggled enough that if somebody had said you were going to win 4 out of 5 races at some point in 2015, I think some people would have been surprised. How in the world have you guys gone from where you were, you know, from last year to where you are now?
Well, I think the best way to describe that is in sports, it's so easy to tip over and get going in the wrong direction. And I say that, if you think back, in 13, we were on a roll. I mean, we led the most laps, won the most races. You know, we had Matt after it. We were kicking it. And is it 13 or 12? 13?
Yeah.
And, you know, we go all the way through that season. We go to Homestead, and we're like one, we wound up like 2, 4, 1, 3, 5. So, you know, we had it all together. And then there were a few changes to the car. And would you know it, you know, all of a sudden, we're in the back of the field, really, at intermediate tracks. And we struggled there for well over a year. And it was a lot of hard work. And so I think I go back to that to show you how you can be on the top in pro sports. And a few little things turn, you can go right to being, mediocre or in the back of the pack. And then I think it takes a lot of hard work to get back, and that's what I'm so proud of our team. It took us a full year and a half, but we bounced back. So I think in pro sports you see that, and really what you have to say about pro sports, the hardest thing is what? To stay up there. It's hard. How many times do you see a pro sports team really have a dynasty, last for quite a while? It's just hard to do.
All right, I believe we had a question. There we go. And then we'll come to Stan.
Zach Worrell, Butler University. Joe, can you kind of talk about the costs of running the aerodynamic packages at certain races?
The cost? Yeah, actually, NASCAR, I think, has been real aware of that. And I think they've tried to do a good job of making the changes so it's bolt-on stuff. And, Adam's a better guy to talk to, but I don't think it's been a real costly deal. And they've been, mostly with the kind of the front underneath portion of the car that you could change some, and the back spoiler. So they've done a good job of trying to keep it down. It hasn't been big changes to the roof line or something like that that would cost us a lot of money.
All right, we'll go to Stan.
Okay, Coach, Stan Creekmore with
Yes.
RPM Tonight.com. I believe he's sitting right behind us. How important, how much enthusiasm did it add to your organization to have JD here
Yeah.
with everybody?
There's
this weekend?
he's sitting on this side.
Oh, they
and
moved him this way.
Yeah, and it was awesome for all of us. And it's great from family standpoint. I called Pat immediately, my wife. I called Coy. I had a grandson racing over here, racing go-karts. I called him. He's the biggest race fan in the world. So as a family, we really, really enjoy what we do. We're a family that races, and we're all in it. Coy's motocross team was in Washington for yesterday. And so we race as a family, really. And so they're normally the first thoughts. And JD will tell you this. I was thrilled that JD was here. He got to hold the trophy, and he got to take a lap with Kyle. They kicked me out of the car. And so I think I'm a little ticked off at JD. I think Kyle likes JD a lot better than he does me, but that's a separate issue. JD, I think because JD signs a check.
All right, any additional questions? Okay, we'll come back to Mike.
Mike Neff, frontstretch.com. Another one for you, Adam. 3 wins in a row with 3 completely different aero packages. In the modern era of competitiveness where everything is so close and it's so hard to distinguish yourself from the pack, how hard was it to put together 3 different race cars with these different packages that ultimately ended up kicking everybody's butt?
Well, I think it has a lot less to do with myself or my individual race team as much as it has to do with the entirety of Joe Gibbs Racing. These cars don't go fast because of one person. I've said it before. You take one person out of the 550 that work at Gibbs, and the whole thing comes crashing down. Everybody has to execute and do their job. And when everybody does that, you can adjust quick. And, having trust in the people that work with you is a big deal. And everybody puts their ideas in of what's going to make these cars go, and everybody gets to work on it. And you can't underestimate the hard work and the dedication of the folks back at the shop that make these cars go fast.
All right, any final questions? Okay, we'll go take our final question from Bob.
Bob Pockers, ESPN. Adam, there seemed to be a lot of talk after the race that, after a couple laps after a restart, you were pretty much, you were at where you were at. I'm curious, did you have did you have a very good restart car, and did the fact that, that there's the potential for limited passing make it any easier to make sure to put in an air duct to cool Kyle?
The air duct question is just, he has to be fresh and ready to go at the end of the race. So that was an easy decision. He has to be 100%. He can't win the race if the car's 1% quicker and he's 5% slower. It doesn't work that way. But, the racing today, I thought it looked about like a normal Indianapolis race. The good cars could pass cars and come to the front. But it's always a track position race. I didn't feel like it was a major difference one way or the other from my seat.
All right, for Adam and Coach, congratulations again on the
Thank
win
y'all.
today. We appreciate you coming in and visiting us, and we wish you the best of luck next weekend.
Great, thank you.
Barry. Thank y'all. I'm getting a little ticked off at Kyle about holding up the airplane with these wins. I told him, I said, quit winning, we'll get home a lot earlier.
Kyle, welcome back.
Good place to be.
It is, it is. We've now been joined by our race winner, Kyle Busch, driver of the number 18 Skittles Toyota. This is Kyle's 4th victory this season, his 5th top 10 finish, and also his 3rd win in a row. So Kyle, you have 2 NASCAR Xfinity Series wins here at the Brickyard, but you were still searching for that first Brickyard 400 win, and today you got to officially kiss those bricks on Sunday. Talk a little bit about just the emotions of today and really also just what it means to win 3, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series races in a row.
Well, there's a lot going on with today's win. Just the event of everything that it is here at the Brickyard and being a part of the Brickyard 400. And I can't say enough about the military support, Jeff Kyle and everyone that was here to celebrate on behalf of him, but let alone the fallen and those in the future, present and future soldiers. And we just appreciate their support. But this is a great day for us, a great weekend for Toyota and TRD, as well as M&M Skittles, Joe Gibbs Racing, all of those involved with our race team. So it's just a true testament to what this team's all about. And I knew we had a really good car on Friday when I was just out there practicing by myself. It drove really good by itself, and I knew we'd have a good shot if we could just get out there and get out front. I felt like we were the strongest car by ourselves, but traffic was just so hard to pass. But we had a lot of fun today. We tried some different strategy there towards the end that kind of worked in our favor. I wasn't sure about it, but those late restarts definitely worked in our favor. And to come home with a victory here at the Brickyard 400, there's nothing else like it. It's probably the biggest win of my career so far, and hopefully there's more wins here at the Brickyard and bigger wins in the series yet for me.
Right. We'll go ahead and take questions from Kyle. If you have one, please raise your hand and state your name and affiliation, and we'll start up front with Bruce, and then we'll go to Bob.
Once all those late race cautions were starting to happen, were you beginning to think, I've seen this movie before, including yesterday?
Yeah, no doubt. I've definitely seen that movie before. I think every single Saturday race here, we've had a late restart, and I've lost the lead every single time. But in the 2 that I've won, I've gotten the lead back. 2 years ago, I got it back from Brian Scott pretty much right after the restart. But then, yesterday I didn't get it back until the white flag, and coming back to the checkered. So you never know how it's going to play out. But, man, it's so hard to win these things. And once you can get a guy out front, get him in clean air, typically you see that guy just kind of stretch it. And I knew that if I could just protect the bottom, Joey was fast. He drafted up on me a couple times. But, if you just protect that bottom and not let that guy get a chance to get on the inside of you, you're really going to mess him up. And that's what I had to do in order to win this thing today.
All right, Bob, go ahead.
Bob Parkhurst, ESPN, you said it's probably your biggest win. Is it because it's Indianapolis? Is it because 3 in a row? Because of what you've been through this year?
I think there's a lot of things, but if you just look at the top 4 races that we have in our series, obviously I think I would order them as, the Daytona 500, the Brickyard 400, the Coke 600, and then, the Southern 500. Those are the 4 crown jewels that I see in our sport. They've been that way for a long, long time, and I don't know that it's really ever changed. So, besides those, I've won the Southern 500, I've won my hometown race, which is a big race for me, the Las Vegas race. I've also won the Bristol night race. I've swept Bristol. So there's a lot of great things that have happened for me in my career. But, this one here today checks off probably the one that's number 2, on the races to win list. But there's still that elusive championship as well that we want to achieve.
All right, I believe we had another question on this side. Go ahead.
Paul Gable, Shelbyville News. Kyle, you talked about it a little bit in Victory Lane, your 11-week vacation. Talk a little bit about how much losing racing made you hungry, helped you out, and also your role now as a father, how much that's changed your outlook away from the track.
Yeah, certainly being away for 11 weeks, I mean, it was tough, but there was nothing I could do about it. It wasn't like I was on a vacation, but, I did call it that. But it was pretty hard times, it was tough to fight through all those things that I had to go through, that Samantha had to go through. And while she was pregnant, she was helping me, and everything that we did there. But, ever since being able to get back walking again, it was okay, how long now, and just all the steps that we went through to get back into the race car was quite challenging. But once we've been back, I felt like I just continued right on my stride that I left with, and that I knew that Adam Stevens and I could achieve. He's obviously a great leader of this team. I love him to death, and he's doing a really good job. And obviously we're having fun doing what we're doing. So having Brexton, though, obviously he's a huge inspiration to me and my wife, and nothing's brought us together closer as a couple than him, and we just continue to enjoy every moment with him. And I don't know, I think he likes Victory Lane probably more than anybody else. He wants to be there so much that his I don't know if it's osmosis or his luck is just kind of rubbing off on us.
All right, we'll take our next question over here. Go ahead.
Kyle over here. Will Clark, WHAS Radio. Today you win with a new package here at Indy. You won with a new package at Kentucky. Are these new packages big steps in the right direction, not big enough steps in the right direction? And obviously you're a little biased, you've won with them, but what needs to be the next step with these?
I think drag is exciting. I would agree that there's nothing more beneficial than to be able to see a guy behind another guy gain on him down the straightaways, instead of making it a horsepower race, you can make it a drag race. That's fun. But the thing that bothers us drivers is when you get to the corners and you absolutely, when you're by yourself, today, for instance, when I was by myself, I felt like I was a really good race car. I felt like I had the car to beat. But then when you got back in traffic, whether you were behind a guy or behind a group of cars, you were horrible. I mean, it was just absolutely so hard to handle in traffic. And it's not sometimes such a bad thing, but you don't want to feel like you're going off into the corner and you're going to crash every time. That's the thing. You want to have some sort of security. So I think there's something to be learned from today. I'm not sure it's the right combination exactly, but I think there's some benefits to it.
All right, we've got another question here in front. Go ahead.
Congratulations on the win today.
Thank you.
3 wins in a row. I'm sorry. Diane Cox with the Advantage News out of St. Louis. You've had 3 wins in a row, 3 different tracks. Personally, for yourself, have you surpassed your own expectations of this season? Because I'm sure coming back you had no idea what to expect. What would you say about your own expectations for yourself personally?
Yeah, there's no question that we've certainly over-exceeded. We just wanted to come back and get back into a rhythm of things and finish top 20, finish top 15, get to some top 10s, but man, right when I did come back, I felt ready to go. I didn't want to come back and not be ready to contend for race wins or contend for top 5s, top 10s. So, when I did come back, I knew that that's what we were going to be here to do. But I wasn't sure it was going to come this quick, gelling with Adam Stevens and just getting used to him as a crew chief. Obviously, I've worked with him on the Xfinity side, but never at the Sprint Cup level. This is an entirely different game up here. So, but it's all worked, and we've certainly exceeded our expectations. I mean, this is just a run that I don't know that anybody would have ever imagined, including myself or my wife or, my team. So we're going to bask in the moment and enjoy it.
All right, we'll go to David. Go ahead.
Kyle, David Scott from the Charlotte Observer. How are your leg and your foot doing now? And are you making any kind of allowances in the car with them? And are you still doing any kind of PT, physical therapy?
Yeah, so my leg is actually doing really, really good. My right leg with the double compound fracture, it's actually feeling really well. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever inside the race car. Walking around with my left foot, I still tend to have a little bit of soreness just through the plate that I have on my number 1 metatarsal. It's immobilized 2 joints, and there's a 3rd joint. So the 2 joints that don't move, all of the motion that you're supposed to get in those goes through that 3rd joint. So that 1 joint is getting 3 joints worth of motion, and that's what's giving me the most pain, most soreness. It hurts a little bit to walk. Some days are actually really good. Today's not a bad day, but other days it hurts, and it doesn't feel very good. But I asked the doctor, I'm like, is it going to get better? And he goes, I don't know if it's going to get any better until the plate comes out. So I'm actually thankful that since I talked to him probably about a month ago, it has actually gotten a little bit better. So we'll see how it continues to play out through the season.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, Kyle. Brad Brown from WRTV here in Indianapolis. Did your car get better? Was your car a lot better at the end of the day than it was earlier? And then second question, no burnout at the end of today. Was there something said perhaps after Saturday?
So my car I thought was really good all day. I didn't have any qualms about it. It actually drove really, really well. We made a couple changes just because of how loose I got in traffic to try to tighten up how my car was driving. And, there at the end, it was driving really good. I actually felt like I was a little too loose, a little looser than I wanted to be. But once you get out front, you're really good. So as far as the no burnout thing, I just didn't want to hear it. So I did my own deal and, took my own sort of victory lap and then gave the bow to the crowd later when there was a bunch of fans and Kyle Busch fans that were sticking around at the end.
All right, I believe we have another question in the back.
Kyle, Tommy Poole, WTWO in Terre Haute. A lot of people on our Facebook page after your last win said that if you do make the championship, they don't think that, since you were out 11 races, they don't think that qualifies as a champion. You can't even walk barely, and you won 4 in a row, or 4 out of the last 5 and 3 in a row. How have you proved yourself as a champion?
I don't care what people say. We're a team, and we work together as a team, and we're going to go out here and do what we can to bring Joe Gibbs Racing, Toyota, Skittles, M&M's, Monster Energy, Pedigree, Snickers, all of our partners a championship. That's what it's all about. They pay me to be behind the wheel, and unfortunately, due to injury, I wasn't able to attend the first 11 races of the season. It's not like I didn't want to be there, but my team was still there. And, we're going to go on and compete for a championship. And if we win a championship, then, it's not that they're going to take it away from me. Then, it is what it is, So as far as right now, Tom Brady's going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the season. And then he's probably going to go on and compete for a championship and might even win the Super Bowl. And I'm doubting anybody's going to take away a Super Bowl championship from that gentleman. So more power to him.
All right, we're going to come to Lee and then back up front to finish our questions. Go ahead, Lee.
Lee, SpencerMotorsport.com. Congratulations. What can you say about your crew chief? I mean, obviously the two of you had a great relationship in Xfinity, won a lot of races, but it's not easy making that jump from the Xfinity Series into Cup. And he just seems to, has acclimated so quickly. And the relationship that the two of you have together, Joe basically said that, you kind of need a crew chief that isn't going to take any crap from you, basically. And
is that the word he used?
Well, no. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, you kind of need somebody that, makes their own decisions as well, and it helps to guide you. And can you just talk about the dynamic there between the two of you?
Yeah, I don't know what it is at all. I remember, joining Joe Gibbs Racing and being a part of, the 18 team with Steve Addington and Chris Gale. And then, Adam was actually the lead engineer on the 20 car with Zipadelli and Stewart when I came on board, So he's been around for a little while, and I never really thought I got along with him all that well. We never really talked. And then he worked with Logano, and then he went to the Xfinity side, worked with Logano there, and then worked with me. But he's obviously a great leader in his team. His guys respect him, and everybody loves working for him. I enjoy driving his race cars, Same can be said, though, for my past crew chiefs, too. I enjoyed working with them while I was with them. It's just sometimes you got to look and try to find that Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus type success. And that's what we're all striving to be. I think that they've set the bar so high that, people have got to sometimes make changes. And you see that kind of going on in this business. Kevin did it. Carl did it. Matt did it, so including myself, from Hendrick, I guess. But it's all just worked together so well for Adam and I. And sometimes I don't know how to read them, and I think that's probably a good thing because people say the same thing about me. They don't know how to read me. And so, maybe that's just why sometimes, we have fun, we joke, we talk, we laugh, and other times the both of us don't say a word because we don't know what's going on in each other's heads. So, I think that's kind of just the mutual respect we have for one another.
All right, we're going to take our 3 final questions up front. We're going to go Dave, Mike, and then end with Bruce. Go ahead.
Dave Coleman, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Given the way things went for you today.
I like your crispy shirt, man.
Thank you. Given the way things went again this weekend, do you have any doubt that you're going to become chase, that you're going to be in the chase?
I don't have any doubts, but we're still not there. And even if we did get there, we still have got to be able to protect that spot and make it through the chase, into the chase. Whether we get into the chase and become chase eligible next week or the week after that, it doesn't matter as long as it comes post-race Richmond. That's all that matters. So, whether we get in and whether we continue to grow and get top 25, none of that matters. Just us being able to achieve the top 30 rule and get as many wins as possible in order to gives ourselves the top seed come chase time.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Mike Nutt from frontstretch.com. The way this race plays out, track position and all, you're around the same kind of cast of characters all day long. And looking at it from the outside in, you seem to be able to use this aero package and make passes better than most of the other cars in the top 10. Was it just that your car was that strong, or did you feel as though you grasped how to use this aero package to your advantage better than the other guys did?
I don't know exactly. I think I did sort of learn a little bit about the aero package from yesterday's race, and yesterday's race was challenging because it wasn't quite as pronounced as today's was. Today you could really gain on a guy down the straightaway, especially if a guy out front like myself. Like when I was the leader, Logano could gain so much on me down the straightaway. 4 or 5 car lengths. But when you're in a group of cars, if there's a leader and a second and a third place, and let's say you're the fourth place guy, all those guys start gaining on each other enough that really the effect that the fourth place guy doesn't have a lot of effect to catch the third place guy. So you all kind of just streamline on. Yeah, your RPMs gain and your speed gains, but you're not gaining the gap between the guy in front of you. But I would say that learning from Xfinity cars and learning from trucks was probably the biggest advantage. So everybody that says racing trucks is a bad idea, I'll be in a truck next week at Pocono, so I'll take what I learned today and give her a go next week. Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to Bruce and end with Jim Utter. Go ahead, Bruce.
As far as your Tom Brady question, I need to remind you, you are in Indianapolis. So
if Andrew Luck got suspended for 4 weeks and then he participated in the championship game, he'd still be considered champion. So
probably.
Either way.
But with all the success you're having right now and the fact that you are probably definitely going to make the top 30, is there almost a point where you'd like to kind of bottle up some of this momentum and save it for the chase?
No kidding, no doubt. If you could take these 3 wins right here and make that Homestead, Phoenix, and whatever's before that, Texas, right? Texas, Phoenix, Homestead. Yeah. If you can bottle these 3 in a row and win at Texas, Phoenix, Homestead, you're the champion. That's all that counts, those last 3 races. Yeah, you got to make it through all the rounds, but essentially, man, if you could bottle it up, man, you'd sure love to do it. So this is just a phenomenal opportunity and a great run that we're on. Again, I can't thank my team enough, everyone there at Joe Gibbs Racing. This is a whole team effort. It's not just me behind the wheel. I'm just fortunate enough to be here, talking to you guys and getting the glory and having my name put on the trophy. But it's the respect that my team deserves, that they've done a great job through this season and through the hardships that they've gone through to be in the position that we're in right now. We're going to enjoy this and hope that it continues, and maybe there's some more wins before the chase starts here and once the chase does start.
All right, we'll take our final question from Jim.
Jim Utter, motorsports.com. This is sort of similar to Bruce's question, but after New Hampshire, Adam was still a little hesitant in talking about the possibility of you being a championship contending team. He had no questions about that after winning today. I just wondered, do you feel, you're so close right now, you could theoretically be in the top 30 next week. Is it time to start thinking about that?
A little bit, once we become chase eligible, which hopefully we will here shortly, but once we do that, then, all we got to think about is those final 10 races and how to win one of those races in each round, pick out the best ones. Is Chicago our best in the first one? Maybe, we got to win that one. And then the next round after that, is it Charlotte? Yeah, probably. We got to win Charlotte. You got to win a race in each round just to get that automatic go to the next round. So in case something bad does happen, and in my chase successes, there's always something bad that happens. So I'm well aware of that. I'm sure many of you are well aware of that. So we just got to do all we can to position ourselves and place ourselves like we have here these last 5 weeks to do a good, consistent job in the chase.
Well, Kyle, congratulations again. We appreciate your
Thank you.
time this evening, and we wish you the best of luck at
Yeah,
Pocono.
don't rush out of here. You're going to see a monsoon here in a second.